Science has always struggled to separate objective data from subjective bias, and this is especially the case with genetic science, as it explicitly challenges the old beliefs of genetics and race. But how has racism affected the field of genetic science? Genetic science in the West began with racism, and these biases have cascaded down to many different aspects of our society as we know it. Racism is everywhere. It's in the research we practice, the studies we read, in the curriculum we teach. But how did we get here? Racism, while unscientific, has been used to exploit and abuse others purely for not matching what someone else has deemed desirable. Information has long been dictated by racist ideas to determine what's worth publishing. Curricula shaped only by these cherry-picked conclusions are used to educate the next generation of researchers. These researchers carry this racism from school and incorporate it into their research practices. All these steps inform legislature, leading to racist and eugenic ideas being pushed to the public, where those who do not meet their criteria are punished. Groups like the California Coalition for Women's Prisoners in Los Angeles County fight the racism that has embedded itself in the state by fighting for women inmates subjected to forced sterilization, to educate those outside and inside the prison system, and to give a voice to those who have been silenced. The California Coalition for Women's Prisoners agrees with Janine Schofield's measures to reform racism in genetic science publishing, as described in Racism in Science, A Perspective from Gene Therapy, to lower scientific bias in Los Angeles County. The CCWP works to make voices that would otherwise be silenced by society heard. To curb the bias in publishing and expand the conversation, the editors at Gene Therapy suggest 3 steps. The first is to diversify decision-making groups, then educate staff on the challenges faced by Black scientists, and highlight the work of Black researchers to establish a more equitable environment. These steps work like the initiatives run by the CCWP in Los Angeles to bring voices who were previously silenced to the forefront of the conversation. The CCWP agrees that racist practices in genetic research, as described in Black Lives Matter and Black Research Matters, the African Society of Human Genetics Call to Halt Racism in Science, by Ambrose Wilcom, need to be repaired, like the racist mistreatment of women prisoners in Los Angeles. While Wilcom suggests 5 changes to reshape the racist genetic research culture, the 5th and final action, to offer reparations to harmed communities, parallels the CCWP's initiative in Los Angeles County. The CCWP works to distribute reparations to women who were forcefully sterilized and for far too long have gone without justice. Like the field of genetic science, the CCWP believes that the prison system too must reform and dole out rightful reparations. The CCWP agrees that a change needs to be made in how genetic science is currently taught, as suggested by Julius Baboda-Govia's Addressing Racism in Human Genetics and Genomics Education in Los Angeles. The CCWP has several initiatives focused on education. Outreach to the public is fundamental to an activist group like the CCWP. Having access to a public that has been educated humanely on genetic science, as described by Govia, will have an easier time overcoming racist ideas. A public equipped with not just standard genomics literacy, but humane genomics literacy, must come from an education system that employs HGL in its curricula, something that the CCWP advocates for. The CCWP acknowledges the power that racist legislation in Los Angeles, as described in Natalie Lyra and Alexandra Mina Stern's Mexican Americans and Eugenic Sterilization, has on the use of genetic science. In Los Angeles County, racist legislations led to the construction of Pacific Colony, a mental hospital that carries out hundreds of forced sterilizations. The procedures carried out at Pacific Colony in 1927 parallel those in prisons today. However, while the Pacific Colony sterilizations followed the law, those happening now do not. These laws outlasted eugenic movements that drove them, pushing the misuse of genetic science long after common opinion had changed. The CCWP works long after both the popular eugenics movement and eugenic law have fallen into the past to stop these racist sterilizations. In Los Angeles, the CCWP's belief that genetic science has been racistly misused in the prison system has led them to work to achieve justice for prisoners victimized by forced sterilization. According to Reproductive Justice Ex Abolition by the CCWP, of the 144 people who were forcefully sterilized, the majority were Black and Latinx, illustrating the racist nature of the procedures. They have been working to get justice for survivors of forced sterilization in Los Angeles since 2013. After years of effort, California became the first state in the country to provide reparations to survivors. Governor Newsom set aside $7.5 million to provide reparations to survivors of state-sponsored forced sterilization. However, the majority of victims were never informed of their sterilization. So the CCWP began their campaign of reaching out to former inmates and families who could apply for compensation. The CCWP believes that the prison system uses genetic science in a racist manner. In response, they amplify the voices of those inside and outside the prison facilities to raise awareness. The CCWP worked with survivors and advocates who felt unheard in the state-sponsored initiative of 2021 to memorialize the harm done by the state and educate the public on eugenics, and brought them together to create their own memorial. The result was a collection of quilts titled Together We Rise, Together We Heal, that tours through different events across Los Angeles County and the state, raising awareness for the racist and eugenic harm done in women's prisons. Because the CCWP believes that the sterilization forced and coerced into being carried out on prisoners are a racist and illegal misuse of genetic science, they work to educate inmates on their bodies and medical rights. According to Reproductive Justice Ex Abolition by the CCWP, to fight the coercion of inmates into sterilization procedures, the CCWP, in collaboration with researchers, has been formulating a booklet to educate prisoners on their reproductive health risks and rights while incarcerated, as well as including advocacy tools. The peer-reviewed information on both health and legal protections and policies is aimed at empowering inmates and supporters in Los Angeles to combat the illegal procedures and stop this abuse of genetic science. In Los Angeles County, the CCWP's belief that genetic science is being misused in a racist manner within prisons leads them to go directly to inmates to understand where they most need support. The misuse of genetic science to excuse the illegal forced sterilizations of hundreds of women in state prisons has made believing the word of those allowing such procedures to take place unreliable. According to programs and campaigns by the CCWP, instead of communicating with these unreliable officials, the CCWP looks directly to inmates for information. Through their newsletter, The Fire Inside, they amplify the stories of inmates to the CCWP, Los Angeles County, and the rest of the world. In Los Angeles County, the California Coalition for Women's Prisoners works to advocate for women inmates subjected to forced sterilization, educating the outside on the abuses being committed with the voices of the incarcerated, and educating those inside on their rights. The women being held in Los Angeles County prisons, like the women being held across the state, are being subjected to inhumane and racist medical practices due to racist and eugenic beliefs. The CCWP in Los Angeles County works to bring justice for these women who have been silenced and taken advantage of due to the misuse of genetic science. The implications of this mistreatment extend farther than just the prison system. Eugenics and the miscarriage of genetic science have been used as tools against vulnerable groups for centuries, and their continued prevalence speaks to their ever-present threat.